We're only a month away from SEC football media days, and we've got plenty of pigskin to discuss tonight. Plus, a check on some former Tide stars in the National Football League. It's all right now, only on Tider Insider TV. And good evening, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider TV. I'm Gary Harris, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. As always, our program is brought to you by Buffalo Rock. Ice cold Pepsi tonight, and I need it. Throat's a little scratchy, and I know you're really battling a cold. But no cold can stop you from Tider Insider TV. Isn't that right, Rod?
That's exactly right.
We look forward to it all week, and we have definitely got it going on. Well, Alabama's 2015 recruiting class could be growing by one on Thursday, possibly. Columbia, Tennessee tight end Jackson Harris is expected to pick either the Tide, Georgia, or Vanderbilt. Alabama is expected to be right in the mix for Harris. Rodney, just some quick thoughts on him and where you think he might be leaning.
He's really a guy that I think would fit really well at Alabama. Gary, he's a big kid, 6'5", 250. He's really strong, a powerful blocker there. You see him making a catch. But I really think when you look at him, he's a guy that could help as an inline tight end, something that Alabama's really going to need. They got a commitment from Hale Hinches out of Missouri a couple of weeks ago. Hale's more of an H-back. I think when you look at Jackson Harris, he's more of a pure inline type tight end. But, it's Alabama and Georgia, Gary, and it depends on who you talk to in terms of which direction it's going to go. I know this afternoon, talking to some people that are close to the Georgia staff, they really felt confident that they were going to get him. But, we'll see what happens. He did visit here at Alabama last week, Thursday and Friday. All
right, we'll find out on Thursday. Right now, though, it's time for our Tuscaloosa Tractor Top Story.
The best always rise to the top. It's time for the TITV Top Story, presented by Tuscaloosa Tractor.
And if you're talking pigskin at Bama these days, you're talking Jacob Coker. He's probably the most talked about member of the football team, and he's never even played it down at Alabama. The transfer from Florida State was in the headlines again this week. His former coach at FSU, Jimbo Fisher, told TideSports.com that he's the most talented quarterback that Saban has had while at Alabama. Here's the whole quote, Rodney, and including what they've had. He's much more talented than anything they've had. I don't mean to discredit the previous guys. They were all great, but this guy is extremely talented, arm and mind. Again, that is Jimbo Fisher on Jacob Coker to TideSports.com. Maybe he doesn't mean to discredit the other guys, but Rodney, certainly you could take it that way, that a backup at Florida State would be better than three guys, two of whom won national championships. Another guy, John Parker Wilson, that led his team to a 12-0 record before losing to Florida in the SEC championship games. Your thoughts on Fisher's comment?
Well, I think he's really talking about potentially, obviously, because, Jacob Coker hasn't played. He played very little at Florida State last year, but he has been in that program. He knows, Jimbo Fisher knows him well, knows what his skills are. And when you look at just look at what Jacob Coker has, his size. He's, 6'5 plus. He's 235 or so. He's a guy that's really athletic, can run, has decent speed, good speed. And, Gary has a big-time arm. He probably does have an NFL arm. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he can make all the throws. So when you look at him physically and the gifts that he has, he is more gifted, I would say, in terms of all of those things. Now, is he a better quarterback than, say, A.J. McCarron? I mean, only time will tell. He certainly has a lot of experience that he needs to, gain. And I think it's going to be a process, obviously, for him to get comfortable. But, again, I think some of the things that Jimbo Fisher says, certainly I agree with.
Rodney, you mentioned the physical tools, and one thing that you do notice when you look at him, especially when you see him in person on the sidelines like we did at the 8A game, and I know this is an era of big college football players, but he still stands out for a quarterback. He's huge. I mean, he does look like a starting tight end.
Yeah, well, he does. And I think when you look at it, he's probably as big as Brian Vogler almost, and Alabama's starting tight end. He may not weigh quite as much, but he's certainly a guy that's is taller. And I mean, look at him there. He's a guy who's an outstanding basketball player. You can go on YouTube and watch some of his dunks. I mean, he was an outstanding high school basketball player at St. Paul. Same high school, by the way, as A.J. McCarron.
And one thing we know for sure, Nick Saban runs a system where you win the job. He'll have to win it, and Blake Sims, Cooper Bateman, Alec Morris, David Cornwell, and others are going to have to say, going to have their say in regards to who wins that job. So if Coker is taking the snaps against West Virginia, it will be because he earned the position.
Oh, no doubt. And I think, again, the one thing that Nick Saban really stresses, Gary, is don't get us beat. I mean, you can't make mistakes, and that's the number one thing that his quarterbacks have to do is make sure they can get Alabama in the right play and not turn the football over.
Yeah, it's not a quarterback-dependent offense. You have to take care of the offense and do what's asked of you. There's nothing wrong with the term game manager. People have made it into a negative. I've always said the first thing you have to do to play quarterback at this level is manage the game. Well, after a tumultuous month, former Crimson Tide defensive lineman Marcel Darius was back in Alabama on Saturday. He was hosting his annual youth football camp at Huffman High School. Marcel has been arrested twice since May 5th, once in Cleveland County, Alabama for drug possession and once in New York State for drag racing, and that race ended him in wrecking his car. He was sent home from the Bills' organized team activities to get his personal life in order, but he insisted this past weekend that he's focused on the right things.
Oh man, I'm focused on football. I love it to death. I mean, I'm excited to get back. Just enthusiastic about the season. I'm just ready to go. Just having a good time here with the kids.
Is there any more anticipation? Looking forward to getting back to football.
Oh man, I never left. What is getting back to it? What is getting back to something you never left?
And as OTAs continue around the National Football League, we've got an opportunity right there to see a pair of former Bama guys reuniting at Packers camp. Eddie Lacy, Rookie of the Year, and Ha Ha Clinton-Dix hit the field together last week, and Eddie had a lot of good things to say about the newest member of the Green Bay Packers secondary.
I talked to him a bit. We text like once he got drafted and stuff, but since he's been here, he's pretty much been on his own. They have a lot more on their plate than, we do as second-year players. He's moving along well and picking up things well.
What kind of player did they get?
Oh, they got a great player, man. You can watch his film from college and, just expect that to translate to this level.
It's nice to get somebody else from Alabama back in this locker room with you.
Definitely. Now, when football season come around, I can trash talk a little more. I got backup now.
And Eddie will also be trying to back up that sensational Rookie of the Year campaign by proving it wasn't a fluke. In his second year, he'll try to do even bigger and better things for the Pack. More to come here on TITV. That includes a wrap-up of the Tide softball season, which came to an end a week ago tonight in OKC. And we'll check in on the Alabama baseball team, which also saw its season end in the regional. But they had several players hear their names called in the MLB draft. We'll talk about those guys when we come back. And we'll also be welcoming your phone calls, your emails, and your tweets. There's the information on the screen on how you can get in touch with us. We definitely want to hear about you. This is the award-winning Tider Insider Television, going strong again tonight here at the University of Alabama. We're back after this. A nice honor for an Alabama baseball player. Freshman closer Thomas Burrows was named to the Baseball Writers All-American freshman team. He finished the year with 11 saves and a 2.15 earned run average, and his 11 saves are the second most in Alabama history for a freshman. In fact, he was 11 for 11 in save opportunities. Can't do any better than that. Well, Burrows will likely be hearing his name called in the MLB draft in a couple of years, but the future is now for four Alabama baseball players. At least it can be now if they want to move on to the next level. We'll start with Spencer Turnbull, who will obviously move on. He was picked in the second round by the Detroit Tigers following his junior season in Alabama. He becomes the highest drafted Bama player since 2006. That was Wade LeBlanc. He was 5-7 on the year with 61 strikeouts. The record, though, not indicative of how well he pitched. A 2.22 earned run average tells you he was really strong. And one of Alabama's Ironmen, Ben Moore, was drafted in the 8th round by the Boston Red Sox. Moore had started in 178 straight games for the Crimson Tide. He led the Tide in homers this year with 9. The Sox drafted him as a catcher, although he played mainly in the outfield. He'll have to make a decision on whether to move on or come back and play for Bama. And Saturday, Justin Camplain heard his name called in the 18th round by the New York Yankees. Camplain finished with a 7-3 record on the hill for the Tide. He led the team in strikeouts, and he also led the team in innings pitched, so he was able to answer the bell just about every time his name was called. And finally, wrapping up the draft for Bama players, the Marlins picked Austin Smith in the 33rd round. The big first baseman led Alabama with a .316 batting average while tying for the team lead with 39 runs batted in. And also, Rodney, I mentioned a couple of signees. Matt Morgan, a Tide signee, went in the 4th round. He's expected to sign with the major leagues. And Keith Holcomb, a football signee. Congratulations to Keith out of Hillcrest High School, drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks. I want to say it was the 37th round right off the top of my head. Great honor, but we're expecting him to come to Alabama and play football.
I tell you, Gary, had he been signable, so to speak, I think he would have been drafted much, much higher.
Yeah, but he's planning to come to Alabama and hopefully will not only play football, but get a chance to play baseball as well. But those 4 Tide players drafted from this year's team doubled last year's output. So Alabama baseball, once again, a pipeline to the big leagues. Well, this time last week, we were wondering if Alabama softball would be able to force a third and deciding game against Florida at the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City. We know that didn't happen. The Gators became the second SEC team to win a national title, beating Alabama 5-0 and 6-3. But a national runner-up finish, certainly not bad for Alabama after they won it 2 years ago. The Tide got a lot of great experience for their younger players and got to send off the seniors with a final Oklahoma City experience. B.J. Milliken was in OKC, and following the final game, he caught up with Crimson Tide head coach Patrick Murphy.
Coach, obviously not the way you wanted to end it, but what a season. What did you tell the team?
I was really proud of them. I mean, it's a special group of 18 young ladies. It's probably the lowest maintenance group I've ever had at Alabama. No disciplinary problems, no issues off the field, no issues on the field. There was 5 academic All-Americans in this tournament, and 4 had Alabama across their chest. So I think everybody back in Tuscaloosa should also be very proud of them.
You lose Jackie, you lose Caleb, but you've got a lot of young guys who are ready to go. What's the future of this program look like?
Well, I think it's going to be very bright, and we have the best fans in college softball without a doubt. We have a new pitcher coming in; she's outstanding. Shortstop, a catcher from Alabama, from Gardendale area, and now it's 13 kids coming back. So we have 13 returnees, and I know after this experience, they're all going to be hungrier than ever.
Rod, with a championship 2 years ago, a second-place finish this year, you could certainly argue that right now Alabama's got the best softball program in the country.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it, the level that he's got it to. Gary, after kind of maybe a little bit of a disappointment last year, but coming back this year and competing for the national championship, no doubt about it.
All right, much more coming up on Tider Insider TV, including some interesting comments from Julio Jones regarding last year's Sugar Bowl. You'll want to hear what the former Bama All-American has to say about that. And up next, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Phone lines are open at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us. We'll try to check those emails, TITV@WVUATV.com, or get on Twitter and hashtag Tider Insider TV. BJ will be checking those for your messages and questions as well. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only Tider Insider Television, brought to you by Buffalo Rock. Rod, we've heard some former Bama players hint at it, but now it's been put out there completely by Julio Jones. In an interview with SI Now, when asked about last year's loss in the Sugar Bowl to Oklahoma, Julio pulled no punches and said nobody at Alabama cares about playing in the Sugar Bowl. It's all about winning championships. He also had a similar experience, he said, in 2008 against Utah, losing to Florida in the SEC championship game, and he said nobody was interested in playing against the Utes. At Alabama, we're about winning championships. Julio also predicted that Nick Saban would see the end of his contract as long as Miss Terry is happy in Tuscaloosa. He says the coach isn't going anywhere. Well, it's time to go to the Med Center hotline. And first up tonight is our buddy Joseph. What's up, partner?
Yeah, what's up? Nah, y'all been hanging around me. Y'all getting my words. I like that.
Yeah, I'm stealing your thunder.
If people are now, I got one question. When's the practice going to start back for Bama?
Well, Rodney, it's I don't have the exact practice dates. I don't think they've been released yet, but it's always in early August.
Yeah, usually camp starts, Joseph, first week of August.
All right, Joseph, when we get those dates, we'll pass them along to you. Thanks for the call in Tuscaloosa. Let's talk to another good buddy, Plato from Panorama. Plato, what's up?
Hey, guys. I have a question for Rodney. In his many, many years of covering recruiting, do you feel it's beneficial, as Texas used to do, to take a lot of commitments early and fill your class out early, or is it better maybe to wait for some late developing players that may flip from other schools? And secondly, do you think this is a trend in terms of more people making a commitment earlier in the recruiting process?
Yeah,
thank you.
I think it certainly is a trend. It's been a trend. It's been ongoing, and I think it looks like it's not going to slow down. I mean, you're talking about Alabama that's close to filling up their class already, and we're, what, 8 or 9 months from signing day, and then you look at it, they're already working on 2016, Gary, in some instances 2017. So, yeah, I mean, clearly it's a trend, and, you know, you mentioned an early signing period, and Gary, you know, you remember back in the day, they used to do the SEC signing period, and where a prospect could sign with an SEC school, and it bound them to that SEC school, but then they could sign with a national or school outside the conference. And, you know, there's been some talk about an early signing period that would, you know, not an SEC signing
encompass everybody.
Yeah, include every school. And, you know, I don't think that would be necessarily a bad idea in December, but I would say this. You know, I think that there would have to be some sort of a clause in there that if there's a head coaching change, that a prospect would be let out. He wouldn't be bound to that.
I think it's coming at some point. We're going to have an early signing period. It's just the way things are headed. All right, let's take an email. This comes to us from Chris in Northport. What's missing for Alabama baseball to get to the College World Series? Haven't been there since '99. Well, Chris, I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's situational offensive baseball. What I mean by that, I think the pitching has been really strong. I think they hit for more power this year, hit for better average, but with the bats having not nearly as much punch as they once did, you're seeing a lot of low-scoring games. You have to be able to generate offense in other ways other than, you know, doubles in the gap, home runs. You got to get guys from second to third, and when you get them at third with less than 2 outs, you got to find a way to get them in. I think they still need a little more team speed. I think stealing bases is a way to generate some offense, put pressure on the defense. That's my opinion, Rod. But I really think it held Alabama back this year. They lost a lot of 2-1 games, some 1-0 games, some 4-2 games, games where they got 9, 10, 11 base hits, but they just couldn't get those runs home.
Yeah, you know, I think the question is that's interesting is going to be the new facilities and how they may impact recruiting because, you know, Alabama, the upgrades, Gary, you know, there's been talk that maybe that's hurt them in recruiting. So, again, I think, you know, they have to recruit some of the style of players you're talking about when you're talking about speed.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see how, you know, maybe the new facilities impact their recruiting. But Mitch Gaspard, as far as I'm concerned, I've always thought he was an excellent recruiter and always thought that he did a good job in terms of relating to the players. All
right, the facility is certainly going to help. That's it for this segment, but next up, it's hard to believe there's an honor he hasn't already achieved, but we'll tell you how Ozzie Newsome is being placed into yet another Hall of Fame. That's coming up. Plus, more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information on the screen so you can get in touch with us. This is Tiger Insider Television, rocking along on a Tuesday night in Tuscaloosa. We'll be back after the break. He's already in the College Football Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and now you can add Ozzie Newsome's name to the members of the National High School Hall of Fame. He'll be inducted on July 2nd in Boston. He becomes the 9th Alabamian to earn the honor. He was a 3-sport standout at Colbert County High School in Leeton and was outstanding in all of them, Rodney. Probably could have been a Major League Baseball player if he'd wanted to, possibly even an NBA guy. He was a tremendous athlete. All right, let's go back to the Med Center phone lines. And first up this segment, TJ in Birmingham. Hey, TJ, how are you?
Hey, how y'all doing? I got a quick question and a quick comment.
Okay.
My question is, do you think Andy Grant going to sign another player for the upcoming season? Because I know we got one scholarship left.
Right.
And my comment is about the basketball, state of the basketball program. I think we're going to turn it around this year that's coming up. I think we're going to have a good season, so I want everybody to come out and support them.
Thank you so much, TJ. As far as will he sign another player, I think it's possible. You don't want to just sign somebody just to bring somebody in. You know, most of the good players now are locked up. There could be a junior college guy, could be a transfer that could wind up coming to Alabama. But TJ and Rodney, I'll say this, you know, 13 scholarships in men's basketball. Anthony Grant hasn't had 13 on scholarship a single season since he's been here. So it wouldn't shock me at all if they, you know, they go with 12 and keep that scholarship open for next year. But they have had a very good recruiting class, 4 really good players coming in, plus 2 transfers sitting out that'll be eligible. I'm with you. I think they're going to be a lot better. All right, let's talk to Solomon here in Tuscaloosa. Hey, Solomon, what's going on? Solomon, you're with us. Turn down your... You there?
Hello?
Yeah, turn your television down, Solomon, or you're not going to hear us. Go ahead.
Do you think AJ McCarron is gonna get to play a lot?
Thanks, buddy. Probably not this year. I mean, unless Andy Dalton were to get injured, I don't think that he'll get a chance, and I think that's good for him. I think he needs to get acclimated playing behind a guy for a couple years. I do think down the road, Rodney, he has a chance to be a starting NFL quarterback.
Oh, yeah, I think so, definitely, Gary. And I think when you look at A.J. McCarron, he really works hard. I think it's something that, you know, it's really something that he has a strong desire to be the best he can be, and the work ethic that he has, the determination that he has skills. I mean, he's an outstanding leader. And you talked about, Gary, you know, being a game manager and being that in a positive way. He understands how to manage a game, it's extremely important, especially, you know, at that level. And I think that when you look at him, I think he's got that quality.
All right, thanks for the phone calls and the emails. Well, coming up, we'll wrap up the show. You know, some people say that Nick Saban can walk on water. I don't know about that, but he can certainly ride the waves. Part of Nick Saban, side of him that you don't get to see too often. We'll have it for you. It's a beautiful evening in West Alabama. We'll be back right after this. Well, it's not often we get to see what happens when Nick Saban unwinds, but here we do through Anthony Orr's Instagram account, the Crimson Tide player. Among those that got the chance to get on the water, Coach Saban piloting the boat while some other players were tubing out at Lake Tuscaloosa. Looks like a ton of fun. As always, though, Coach Saban in the driver's seat, Rodney. No doubt about that. All right, that is going to do it for this week's program. We appreciate you joining us. Remember, Tider Insider TV will be with you all the way through the summer, right up until SEC Media Days and the start of fall practice. Well, we're going to leave you tonight with a special treat. One of our viewers emailed us, Wanyell, sent us in, I'm a Bama fan, mix one. Check this out. Good night, everybody.
Hammer, jammer, yellow hammer, give them hell, Alabama. The foundation is pride, effort, toughness, commitment, adding the discipline to finish, to defeat competition. The hounds, truth is the proof, elephants traveling groups. We pursue academic excellence, we work to improve. This is the house to be built, from G Stallings to Nick Saban. Operation Dominance, our conference love to be hated. Excited crowd, electric, game plan energetic. At college campuses and game day, I'm the #1 ticket. Hey, hey.